Hello, book lovers. Today we're embarking on an enlightening journey through the pages of a book that tackles one of the most pressing issues of our time, climate change. From the staggering numbers of greenhouse gas emissions to the innovative solutions that could lead us to a zero-emission future, this book offers a comprehensive look at the challenges and opportunities we face. Join us as we explore the critical insights and personal stories that make this book a must-read for anyone concerned about the future of our planet. Let's dive in. To summarize the book in one sentence, you could say it's about the urgent global challenge of reducing greenhouse gas emissions to zero to combat climate change, highlighting the need for innovation, systemic changes, and collective action across all sectors and countries to achieve this goal. Beginning with the introduction, Introduction, the book establishes two pivotal numbers, 51 billion, representing the annual global greenhouse gas emissions, and zero, the target required to halt the worst effects of climate change. The author's personal trajectory from addressing global health to confronting energy poverty underlines a central argument. Reliable, affordable energy is crucial for improving lives, yet decarbonization is equally essential to avoid climate disaster. In Chapter 1, the author stresses the monumental task of achieving near net zero, explaining that even a relatively small increase in global temperatures can set off dire consequences for ecosystems and communities worldwide. This chapter outlines how greenhouse gases persist in the atmosphere for centuries, meaning we must not only halt new emissions, but also consider ways to remove existing ones. The urgency is reinforced by top climate scientists, who warn that warming won't be uniform across the planet. Some regions will experience more severe temperature increases, which can trigger extreme weather, crop failures, and sea level rise. Moving into Chapter 2, the narrative highlights the omnipresence of fossil fuels in everyday products and services. Fossil fuels are likened to water, so prevalent that we seldom notice them. From powering factories and transport to creating chemicals and plastics, they're embedded throughout global infrastructure. Their historically low cost and the extensive systems built around them make any transition away from fossil fuels daunting. The chapter encourages readers to consider how deeply fossil fuels are woven into daily life and the hidden complexities of swapping them out for cleaner alternatives. Chapter 3 advocates for a methodical approach to climate data, suggesting that all solutions should be viewed in the context of 51 billion tons of annual emissions. Here, readers learn the importance of converting emissions into percentages of the global total, clarifying which sectors carry the biggest carbon footprint. Emphasis is placed on less discussed areas such as cement, steel, and other industrial processes that collectively add up. The author offers a simple litmus test when considering new technologies or policies. Will they reduce emissions by at least 1% globally? If not, the effect may be too marginal. The chapter's broader message is that measured, data-driven thinking helps avoid piecemeal solutions and ensures that efforts target the largest sources of greenhouse gases. Chapter 4 focuses on electricity, underscoring how it underpins modern life. In the developed world, flipping a switch for instant power is routine. In parts of sub-Saharan Africa, however, reliable access remains a challenge. Though power plants have enabled centuries of progress, from the era of hydropower to fossil-fueled grids, electricity generation remains a massive driver of climate change. The author recounts visiting various power plants with his son, exploring both the marvel of how consistently we can keep the lights on and the massive infrastructure that delivers this resource. A central theme here is that as we develop new energy solutions, they must match or exceed current systems in reliability and affordability, while drastically cutting emissions. Turning to Chapter 5, the discussion expands to the materials that define our built environment, beginning with the Seattle 520 floating bridge as a testament to the versatility of concrete. Concrete and steel are singled out for their immense consumption, especially in rapidly developing nations like China, yet both materials are carbon-intensive in their production. Plastics, glass, paper, and aluminum also make appearances, each with its own environmental footprint. The chapter drives home the reality that we can't function without these key materials, so we must innovate cleaner methods to produce them. Much like the argument around electricity, the ultimate challenge is to preserve their utility without catastrophic emissions. Chapter 6 brings us into the realm of agriculture, opening with a personal anecdote about the author's love of cheeseburgers. an entry point to highlight beef's outsized impact on global emissions. Agriculture, forestry, and land use together contribute significantly to greenhouse gases, largely due to methane and nitrous oxide. Here, the text recounts Paul Ehrlich's dire predictions in The Population Bomb and contrasts them with Norman Borlaug's innovations, which helped feed billions more people than Ehrlich thought possible. This historical lens shows that ingenuity has staved off disaster before. The implication is that continued innovation in farming, especially around livestock, fertilizers, and land use, can mitigate climate change and ensure food security simultaneously. Transportation is in the spotlight in Chapter 7, emphasizing gasoline's unique advantages: high energy density, relative affordability, and a worldwide infrastructure that's entrenched in the global economy. Automobiles, ships, planes, and trucks rely heavily on fossil fuels, making transportation a 16% slice of global emissions. Decarbonizing the sector is particularly tough due to the sheer scale of daily travel and the rapid growth in developing regions. Nonetheless, the author insists it's not impossible. Battery improvements, biofuels, hydrogen, and other emerging technologies can chip away at gasoline's dominance if we can match its efficiency at a reasonable cost. Chapter 8 explores air conditioning's rise from a niche luxury to a global necessity. Tracing historical milestones like John Gorrie's ice-making machine and Willis Carrier's breakthrough in humidity control, the text shows how AC became integral to modern comfort and economic productivity. Yet as countries grow wealthier and hotter, cooling systems are proliferating, ratcheting up electricity use and emissions. Data centers, too, rely on robust cooling to keep the digital world humming. This chapter highlights how meeting our rising demand for cooling and the electricity it consumes must be balanced against emission goals. In Chapter 9, the author links innovation and climate adaptation, illustrating how families in developing countries are particularly vulnerable to environmental shifts. The Talam family in Kenya exemplifies this tension. Though their economic progress through dairy farming is a win against poverty, an expanding herd of cattle increases methane emissions. This micro-level challenge underscores a macro truth. The world's poorest regions need both economic development and climate resilience. How can we foster prosperity without exacerbating global warming? The answer, the author suggests, lies in supportive policies and tools that enable cleaner agricultural expansion and energy access. Chapter 10 outlines strategies to accelerate the shift toward low-carbon technology. Governments at every level, local, state, and federal, have roles to play, from building codes to large-scale infrastructure investment. National governments, in particular, are urged to define zero-emission targets, craft precise plans to get there, and fund research to slash the green premium that makes clean energy more expensive than its fossil fuel counterpart. The US government's leadership in funding and regulation, for example, can kickstart innovation that trickles down to local communities and fosters economies of scale for new technologies. Chapter 11 refines the conversation into a global roadmap for zero emissions by 2050. The author cautions against quick fixes, like substituting coal with natural gas, that yield short-term gains but lock us into long-term fossil dependencies. Instead, the text calls for a multi-tiered plan that sees immediate emissions cuts as milestones toward true net zero. This shift in mindset is crucial. Passing stricter standards, incentivizing zero-carbon electricity, and heavily investing in clean tech will be key. Rather than celebrating partial reductions, we should measure progress by how solidly we're positioned for deep decarbonization. Chapter 12 celebrates the power of individuals to spark systemic change. Voting, activism, and open dialogue with representatives can pressure decision-makers to implement sustainable policies. On the consumer side, our choices, from which groceries we buy to how we power our homes, can shape market demand and push companies to go greener. The author also floats the idea of public service. Running for office at local or state levels can yield direct influence on policy. This chapter underscores that while personal lifestyle changes matter, broader political engagement and legislative action can alter the course of entire industries. Finally, in the afterword, 14 Afterword, the author reflects on the turbulent events of 2020, including the COVID-19 pandemic, and draws parallels between public health crises and the climate emergency. Both demand global cooperation, guided by scientific evidence, and both disproportionately affect vulnerable communities. The economic fallout from the pandemic can inform how we invest in climate solutions. Stimulus plans and infrastructure upgrades can be wielded as opportunities to fund clean energy, green jobs, and innovations that cut emissions. The chapter ends on a note of urgency but also optimism, suggesting that with sufficiently coordinated efforts, ones that address economic disparities, we can build momentum to avert climate disaster. Taken together, these chapters illustrate the scale of the climate challenge, but also the wealth of opportunities to tackle it. Every corner of human activity, energy, industry, agriculture, transportation, and more is examined in concrete detail. At each step, the author insists that pragmatic solutions and new technologies can solve the problem if ambition is matched with smart policies, robust funding, and coordinated innovation. The through line is that no one fix will suffice. Only a portfolio of solutions, deployed collaboratively and guided by science, will enable us to bring 51 billion tons down to zero, while still ensuring a decent quality of life for everyone. As we close the pages of this enlightening journey, it's clear that the fight against climate change is not just a challenge, but an opportunity for innovation, collaboration, and transformation. From understanding the critical numbers that define our current environmental crisis, to exploring the intricate ways in which our daily lives are intertwined with fossil fuels, this book has taken us through a comprehensive exploration of what it means to aim for zero emissions. The stories of resilience, the call for systemic change, and the emphasis on the power of individual action remind us that the path to a sustainable future is paved with both challenges and hope. Let's carry forward the lessons learned, the urgency felt, and the optimism shared. Together, we can be part of the solution. If this journey has inspired you, share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue the conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with others who are passionate about making a difference. Until next time, let's keep striving for a healthier planet and a brighter future for all.